It is Thursday, April 27th, 2023. This is another edition of Baseball Today presented to you by MLB 9 Innings. That is my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan along for the ride as well. Yes, I am showered, no hat. Got to go cover the NFL draft a little bit later. That's why I even dyed my beard. Bad job or decent job?
No, you look great. I told you that as soon as I got on the Zoom call here. I always tell you, you look good or you don't look good. I'm honest with you. But today, my goodness, man. I wish I was Michelle.
Yeah, no, you really don't. I got to be honest. I'll save you that.
Okay.
I will give her the credit. She's the one who put the rubber gloves on and then put the foam in the beard. So she gets all the credit if it does look halfway decent. And if it doesn't, she didn't do it. So
I love watching you do your thing, like on other networks. And I mean, you're so good,
Yeah.
man. Like you're so multi-talented. You really are.
I appreciate that an awful lot. Thank you very much. Looking forward to it. It's always fun. But let's talk a little baseball because today's episode is sponsored by MLB 9 Innings, which has a wide variety of game modes from league mode, where users play through the entire season, to live play-by-play. They have over 2,000 player cards to collect and use on your dream roster, which, by the way, is the most up-to-date, along with the team logos, the ballparks, the unis, and they're introducing new historic Hall of Fame players to MLB 9 Innings, like Larry Walker, Walter Johnson, Hank Aaron, Mike Schmidt, Trevor Hoffman. So download and play MLB 9 Innings 23 today with the link in the description. And don't forget to get in your MLB 9 Innings question of the week. By Thursday night, we can pick the best one. You'll become rich and famous when we use it on Friday's show. Okay, you won't get rich and famous, but you will get a Baseball Today t-shirt. So there you go. Let's start off with a little bit of a tearjerker. Drew Maggi, 33-year-old, 13-year minor leaguer. We told you the story earlier in the week, called up by the Pittsburgh Pirates. And finally, Wednesday night against the Dodgers, he got to make his major league debut.
Introducing Drew Maggi.
Number 39, Drew Maggi will pinch hit for Andrew McCutchen, making his major league debut.
Maggi strikes out. He's a big leaguer forever.
I can't explain how I was feeling in the box. You guys, I didn't even know what to do. You guys were cheering me on. I got my parents here, my three brothers, sister back at home. I mean, this is unbelievable. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome. That's going to be unquestionably one of the moments of the year.
It is. And, when you look around the game on social after this, so many players were wishing him well and just like giving shout outs to him because, he's played with a bunch of dudes. He's been in some different organizations, and to stick around that long, even in the minor leagues, you have to be a good person. And you can just tell by the smile, by that post-game interview, that he's a good dude. So I'm happy for him. Obviously the at-bat didn't, end up the way he wanted, but he got started 0-1 because Jeff Nelson banged him for not getting in the box in time. I don't know what we got to do to clean this up, Chris. That really made me mad. It's like, you got to have some feel. I know there's like some things you have to do, but like, shouldn't they have done that? Like, set this up, understanding this guy's going to take a little bit of time before he gets in the box. 13 years.
I know. Well, yeah, it did take him a little while to get in the box. No pun intended. I thought that he fouled away the first pitch and then he got the strike called on him. Wasn't it the second pitch? But
I thought he started 0-1. I don't know. That's what I read, but could be.
Okay. Regardless, tip of the cap to the Dodgers, who handled this very well in a game where they were getting their butts kicked. I appreciated that. And I think everybody knew the moment in the stadium, at least everybody, one person. So a couple of things here. If it had taken you 13 years to reach the major leagues, what year would you have quit?
Man, it took me 6 years to get to the big leagues, and there were times where I wanted to quit during that span. It's difficult because you see guys get called up and some guys you think you're better than, or you're better than, but they have a signing bonus attached to them, or they're younger and they're on the 40-man roster. There's so many hurdles that you have to get to. It's why I stopped playing at the end. I felt like my opportunities weren't there, and I just didn't want to be in AAA anymore. So to be honest with you, I don't know if I would have had the mental fortitude to continue to pursue it. But I guess to answer your question, I mean, shoot, if I didn't make it, when I did, maybe another year or two, it's a lot. And you feel like you're behind society, man. If you're in the minor leagues and you're 27, 28 years old, and that's all you've done is play pro ball, you get back into the real world and it's like, well, shoot, now I'm kind of behind. I'm so happy that he persevered. He's done some WBC stuff now. Now he's a big leaguer forever. No one can ever take that away from him. And I'm sure that he's going to end up like in the game somewhere if he wants.
By the way, I looked at his baseball reference page yesterday, and I looked at it today. Yesterday, could only get his minor league stats. Today, he's a big leaguer, and it's awesome that he's got that. And I love it, by the way, that he pinch hit for Andrew McCutchen.
Pretty cool.
That is freaking amazing.
And Pirates were winning. That's awesome.
Yeah.
First place Pirates. I pinch hit for Andrew McCutchen on the first place Pirates.
By the way, we are having Austin Hedges on the show next week. We had to record that earlier in the week, so we'll touch on this the next time he's on. You're probably wondering, well, why didn't you? That's why. It was just a timing issue this week.
You can touch on this.
Okay. So we move from that to a really interesting story. We're going to kind of make a left turn here. We're not talking about basketball, but we're going to use this as kind of our jumping off point. Wednesday night, for those of you that don't pay attention to the NBA playoffs, the number one seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs, the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis Antetokounmpo, they got bounced from the playoffs by the number 8 seed, the Miami Heat, in just 5 games. Afterward, he was asked by, I believe, a local reporter named Eric, whether or not the season was a failure.
You asked me the same question last year, Eric. Do you get a promotion every year on your job? No, right? So every year you work is a failure. Yes or no? No. Every year you work towards something, towards a goal, which is to get a promotion, to be able to take care of your family, to be able, provide the house for them or take care of your parents. You work towards a goal. It's not a failure. It's steps to success. Michael Jordan played 15 years, won 6 championships. The other 9 years was a failure. Some days it's your turn, some days it's not your turn. And that's what sports is about. You don't always win.
He gave us a lot to chew on there. Is it sometimes a failure if you don't win it all?
I think there are certain circumstances where, yes, you could have failed. If you blew a 3-1 lead in a series, I feel like that could be a failure in most people's eyes. But I really like the sentiment that Giannis is talking about here because, I think about in baseball terms. Let's just take the Houston Astros, for example. They've been to how many ALCSs in a row? 7, something like that. 6. They have 2 World Series in that time. Now, the reason that those other years aren't failures is because what he said, like they have gained so much perspective and experience playing in those moments. Even though they didn't ultimately win and hoist the trophy at the end of the year, they're gaining experience that has helped them sustain this success they've been able to go on. And I think that's, one of the biggest reasons that, they're the unquestioned, I think, best team in baseball over the last 6-7 years. I don't think anyone can take that away from them. It's because they've put themselves in that position. They didn't win the whole thing every single year, but I wouldn't consider those years failures for them. And you can say the same thing about individuals. Like, you're not always going to have your best year, but you might learn something in that down year that helps you get better for the next year, especially in baseball. It's such a difficult sport that you have to learn how to fail. Nobody wins every single time. The people that know how to fail and how to make adjustments quickly, those are the people that ultimately have success. But you have to go through some of those things, some of those failures to get to the top. And I think that's what he's saying there. You can't look at it and like say, I failed, let's go back to the drawing board. It's like, no, I failed. Let's learn from those and move forward. I thought the sentiment was great. I thought it was cool that he said, I don't want to get personal with you, but you asked me this question last year and I have a better answer for you this year. I thought it was, one of the more insightful answers you're going to see after a post-game interview.
It absolutely was. It was well handled. I think the question is fair, to be honest with you. If you're a 1 seed and a former championship team, and you're going against a squad that doesn't have their second best scorer, it's a legitimate question. It's a fair question. I thought the way Giannis handled it was beautiful. I don't necessarily agree with him. I look at it in the space that we cover in baseball. There are at least 6 teams, in my opinion, that I think they will call it a seasonal failure. I would say the Astros, the Mets, the Yankees, the Braves, the Padres. I think those teams would call the season a failure if they don't at least get to the World Series this year.
Well, hold on. Getting to the World Series and winning, it's different.
I know. But I think that, I guess that's fair. I guess not winning the World Series would be a failure. You and I have talked about this on the show before. We both feel like this is the sport where it's hardest to make it to the Holy Grail, even when you have an amazing season. Look at the Dodgers last year, 111 wins, the 4th most ever in a single season, and they got bounced because over 4 games, they weren't as good as the San Diego Padres. If those 4 games happen in the middle of July, we don't give a shit. Whereas in the NBA, it's basically the same guys. You're not changing the most important player several times a game, which would be the pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier. NFL, it's 1 game. I'll take the better quarterback 90% of the time. Baseball, it's a totally different animal, but I think that if you were to ask those players on those teams, I think most of them would say the season's a failure.
They're going to say that to the media. They're going to say,
feel it?
No, because it's such a grind and they understand how hard it is. And in baseball, say 2 teams, they make it to game 7. Okay. They play their hearts out, had excellent seasons. You get to game 7 of the World Series. Then all of a sudden, Madison Bumgarner comes in and absolutely shuts you down. That team that lost that game, are you going to say the season was a failure? I mean, dude, we did everything right, everything we could. But it's like Giannis said, it's sports. Sometimes you get beat, dude. Sometimes it happens. You're not going to be the guy. But I don't think that makes it a failure. That means you lost.
Yeah.
I think they're 2 different things.
I had a hard time with this one. I really did. That's why I love what Giannis said, because it really makes you think. How often do we hear press conferences that sit and really make all of us think? So I kind of applaud him. I applaud the question, and I really applaud the answer.
People are going to feel differently about this. I think Joe's McFly put something on his Instagram talking about this, or Twitter talking about this. And there was a reply saying like Jeter would have just said flat out, yes, it's a failure. So that's the way Jeter thinks. And I kind of not sure, like, does he actually feel that way? Or is that the persona that he kind of created, that he wanted that because that's what was expected of him in New York? I'd like to sit down with him and ask him that personally. Probably never going to get a chance to do that.
Hey.
But people can think about this differently. It's okay. Like everybody competes differently. Your mental capacity is differently, and you're going to compartmentalize losses and wins differently. So that's what's beautiful about sports, is you get the job done in different ways.
I had the good fortune of covering the guy who this most certainly pertains to, and that's Tiger Woods. For the year and a half that I covered the golf tour, this was no bullshit. When he said second sucks, he meant second sucks. There's been an entire couple of generations of golfers that have made an enormous living by just cracking the top 10, and that's good enough because the paycheck's been awesome. Tiger Woods really believed that second sucked. So he probably listened to Giannis's press conference last night and was like, what the hell is he talking about? Because he hated losing. He hated losing more than he loved winning. And for him, that meant that those 4 days that he was at a golf tournament were a complete failure. But once again, you're talking about the elite of the elite.
Yeah.
Right there. And by the way, I do think Jordan would say those other 9 years were a failure.
You know who would say that too? Ricky Bobby. You ain't first, you're last. Do you know that reference? Is that too young for you?
Too young?
I don't know.
Isn't that Talladega Nights? Boom.
I'm not even a movie quote guy. How about that?
I know. That was pretty good.
Some guys are
pretty
movie quote guys, aren't they? They just spout out movie quotes all the time.
Oh, yeah. I work with one at the NFL Network, Sean O'Hara, the former Super Bowl champion offensive lineman of the Giants, one of my dear friends. He is a movie quote guy. You can't get through one conversation without him dropping like 7. He's
What
pretty
about this
good
one?
at it.
Legolas, what do your L5 My favorite line.
What's that one?
2 Towers, Lord of the Rings. They're searching
I
for the
knew it was gonna
hobbits.
be
They're
something.
following a pack of
right.
Uruk-hai across the westward plains, and they're on top
I
of this
would love
ridge.
to
And
through
Legolas
this.
shoots his eyes out there to see what's going on.
Gotta get to more of the show.
Okay.
I want to talk about the way you look, guys. Sometimes you look into your wardrobe and you're like, shit, I don't have anything to wear. Not a damn thing. Well, guess what? Roan is stepping up to the challenge. They have created a Roan commuter collection, which is the most comfortable, breathable, flexible set of products known to man, and here is why. Roan helps you get ready for any occasion with the commuter collection, which offers the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos. If you're like me, I've talked a lot about it. I'm a Dow Joneser. I need comfortable pants. I want stuff that I can wear out on any sort of occasion. You match it with the quarter zip. We know that Eli and Peyton love those things, so you should love them as well. Roan's comfortable 4-way stretch fabric provides breathability and flexibility. It leaves you free to enjoy what life throws your way. So it is time to feel confident without all the hassle. And get this, sometimes your clothes, they're all wrinkly and you're like, shit, do I have to go get that thing out and steam it? No, not with Roan. It's wrinkle release technology, which means wrinkles disappear as you stretch and wear the products. With Gold Fusion anti-odor technology as well, you're going to be smelling fresh and clean all day long. And on top of that, Roan, how do you clean it? It's 100% machine washable. So head on over to roan.com/today. Use that promo code today. You're going to save 20% on the entire order. That is 20% on the entire order when you head on over to Roan. That is RHONE.com/today. Use that code word today. You'll thank me later. Back to a little ball. Chicago White Sox. Welcome home. You lost 7 in a row, including all those games in Tampa Bay and Toronto. You have the 3rd worst record in baseball. Okay. Is this just a slow start, or are you saying, see you in 2024?
I feel like I almost have to go down with the ship at this point because I believed in him last year. I believed in him at the beginning of this year in the preseason. You know, if you look at the roster, there's so much talent there. If you just played the game on paper, this team would be a pretty good team, a contending team, but you don't play the game on paper. And honestly, everything's going wrong for them. There's not one thing that's going right. I mean, maybe Andrew Vaughn making some progress. That's all right. But they got injuries, Chris. You know, Tim Anderson hasn't been there. Young Gomes is dealing with some stuff. Moncada's dealing with some stuff. So they have that.
You mean Yasmani Grandal?
I'm sorry, yeah. Yasmani Grandal.
Yeah.
Injuries and a lot of underperformance. I mean, if you just look at the ranks of where they got right now, and they're in hitting, they're 28th in OPS. Their starting pitchers are 27th in walks per 9. That's a horrible statistic. They're 26th in ERA. Their bullpen is 28th in ERA, 30th in WHIP. They're the worst team at allowing base runners in the bullpen. Like, everything is going wrong. Like, was there going to be an adjustment period with Grafal coming in? Maybe. But I'm like almost willing now, get off the ship and get in a lifeboat and sail somewhere else, bro. Like, I thought this was my team. Bounce back year was coming. Tony La Russa was the problem. We're going to have new energy here. And we just haven't had that yet, man. So I don't think this is just a rut. I think this just might not be the right mix of players. I'm not sure what it is.
I'm telling you that.
I wish it wasn't that way because there's some talented dudes on this team. I mean, and they're young too. I mean, they're still a young roster with plenty of time. These players are in their prime, but they just have not got the job done, man. So I think I'm officially stepping off the White Sox bandwagon. I love some of the players on this team, but it's just too much for me. I can't take it anymore.
Did you have them making the playoffs this year or no? You remember?
I don't think I did. I don't think
Yeah.
so. Because the AL East, I thought we drew a bunch of teams from there, and that was kind of where we
Yeah.
had our wild card teams from. But I at least had them like, contending.
Competitive. They are off to their worst 25 game start in nearly 4 decades. Enough's enough now. Enough's enough. They've got to tear this thing apart. In my opinion, they've got 6 weeks to figure this out. 6 weeks from today.
Oh, so you're not giving up on them.
I don't think they're going to do anything. But if I were part of the team, you don't start trading guys in April. Nobody does that.
Why not? Why not? We should just start doing that.
That's a good question. I wish we would. It would
Just
make it
go.
more fun. Let's make the trade deadline May 1st. You got to figure out what your team looks
Figure it
like in
out.
5 weeks.
Sure.
Let's go. You got 5 weeks. Are we good or bad? So by the middle of June, they're going to figure out exactly what they are. And I don't think they're going to enjoy what they're seeing in the mirror. I've had enough of the whole, we're hurt. You know who else was hurt last year? The Mets and the Dodgers. They did fine. Pick it up, guys. Like, if I were a White Sox fan, and then did you listen to the 7-minute call into the Chicago radio station of the White Sox fan?
As I was researching for the show, I came across it. I didn't listen to it. No.
Well, you should. The guy's actually phenomenal. He's really good because he's not like screaming at the top of his lungs. He makes really good points. If I were a White Sox fan, I would want to pull my hair out. Oh my God. And it just feels like there's no direction here. Like, okay, so they're going to trade Tim Anderson. Like, is he the Dodgers shortstop coming up in 2 months? Does Giolito get shipped out of town? He's on the last year of his deal. Like, Dylan Cease is the one guy you're like, okay, got it. I'm in. Everybody else, Moncada, he gets off to a great start. He's hurt. Eloy runs it all. He's hurt. Luis Robert, okay, doing a good job. Great. Stay healthy. Want to see that. Rest of the guys, they're not a great defensive team. They don't hit worth a damn. Their pitching outside of Cease has not been good.
It's not Chris. Not good. They're some of the worst in the league right now.
Yes.
You can't
They're
sugarcoat
so
it,
terrible.
man.
You're right. I don't get it.
I don't believe this is who this team is, but you have to I guess eventually it is who you are if you keep
At what point do you say? Yeah,
I don't know, man. I have a quote up here from Grifol, the manager. And I thought it was
Yes.
kind of how I feel. I got to find it again because I was reading this article. It's gosh dang, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Pick the best point because we got to move on.
I've been on teams that you go through a streak like this and the season is over. This doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that way at all. It just doesn't feel that way. I don't know why. This is a good team. There's talent here. There's care here. There's work here. It just doesn't feel that way. And I know that feeling. I'm with them, but it eventually turns the page where it's like, okay, I guess this is who we are.
The only difference between this year's team and last year's team is I don't have to watch Tony La Russa fall asleep during games. That's it. All right, let's move on. A couple of great pitching performances yesterday. Who were you more interested in what they've accomplished so far this season? Zach Gallen, who's got another 28 innings scoreless streak working, or Houston's Hunter Brown, who as a rookie is just flashing it, and yesterday got a 1-0 win down in Tampa.
I really hope you're going to talk about Hunter Brown because he deserves to be talked about on this show. I'm going with Zach Gallen because I feel like I never talk about Zach Gallen. And I put a few texts out last night. I talked to Longoria. I said, man, talk to me about Gallen. Like, what is going on? Like, what hitters look like they have no idea what to do against him. And we had some conversations, and Longoria loves this guy. So I started kind of looking at everything. Obviously, he has the 28 and was it 28? What did you just say?
28
scoreless inning streak, which is incredible to think about at the big league level, being able to do that. And then you realize, oh yeah, last year he had 44 1/3 scoreless. Like what this guy does. I mean, he's one of the guys that he doesn't have top end stuff. Like he doesn't have the 100-mile-an-hour fastball. He doesn't have the 95-mile-an-hour slider like some of these guys does, but he has good enough stuff but he just knows how to pitch, and he knows how to pick a hitter apart, and he knows how to set a hitter up. If you look at his baseball savant page, he's got 4 pitches that he throws at least 14% of the time. And so as a hitter, that's what you look at. If a guy has something that he throws under 10%, you kind of just throw it out the window. If he catches you on it, whatever. Once you get to like that 15% mark, you kind of have to, say, okay, well, where does he throw that pitch most? What counts does he have it in? Because you're always trying to eliminate pitches as a hitter. The thing with him is he throws all of those pitches wherever he wants. He hits the top of the zone with the fastball, the curveballs at the bottom of the zone, the changeups at the bottom left part of the zone, the cutters at the bottom right part of the zone. He changes your eye level. He changes speeds. There's no way to game plan for him. I say this about Sonny Gray too. Like some pitchers, you're like, I got a great plan against this guy. And he might execute and you might not get hits. Zach Gallen, what's your game plan against this guy? What are you going to do? He throws 4 pitches for strikes. He locates them all. He mixes them up and he reads you what you do in the box. It is just an absolute nightmare. And if you watched the game last night, these Royal hitters were just like, what do we do? Some of them are going at the umpire because they're saying, well, this is a ball, but they're not balls. The reason they think they're balls is he's changed their eye level so much. The strike zone looks this big to them. And that's a horrible feeling to have at the plate. So Zach Gallen, man, like I know that he's on a lot of lists as, one of the better starting pitchers because he forces himself on this list. Like he makes us put him on the list because he does stuff like this, 44 and a third score this last year straight and 28 now. Like he forces his way on. And I'm like becoming a bigger and bigger fan of his the more I watch him pitch.
Yeah, I'll be fascinated to talk to our guy, Vinny Pasquantino. He said, I didn't know if that was a changeup or if that was a cutter or whatever it was. It was sick.
Dude, the catcher missed it and it knocked the umpire's mask off because nobody knew what to do.
Yeah, it was pretty good. The only thing I think about Gallen is the fact that the St. Louis Cardinals traded him and Sandy to the Marlins in the same deal.
Marcelo
all I can think of is, right. Woo, that's some crazy stuff. Hunter Brown, very quickly. Amazing start. He's the first pitcher this year with at least 3 starts of 7+ innings and no earned runs allowed. Pretty good. Also hasn't given up a homer in almost 51 innings. For a kid who got his major league call up last September, he seems to have adjusted very quickly for a team that needs it. They've gotten off to slow starts in the past, but when you lose a Cy Young winner in Justin Verlander and you don't have McCullers at the beginning of the year, you need guys to step up their game. He has done so. He is a really, really fun player to watch so far. No question. Before we get out of here for the day, the Cubs' #1 prospect, P. Crow Armstrong, back at it. An 0-2 count, battled a 16-pitch at bat before nailing a grand slam. Awesome job by him. We will see him in the majors. If not this year,
hit him up there. He got that dog in him. Valley boy.
He does. He is and he's a great defensive player too. So it got us thinking about our favorite at-bats of all time. Because we're running a little short on time, let's just do these as VOs, guys, not sound full. Give me your favorite at-bat. Go.
I like watching Miggy go up against Roger Clemens. I thought, now that we have context on this too, like Miggy's become one of the best hitters of all time. Like I thought this is great. Roger Clemens brushing him back early in the at-bat, thinking that I could take advantage of this rookie. Miguel Cabrera be like, no, bro, I got that Oppo juice. You don't know about that yet, but I'm going to be one of the best hitters ever. Love this at-bat.
Dude, I think he was 20 years old in that World
Insane.
Series. Just freaking awesome. He used to be a shortstop as a kid. For me, it was also World Series, but it had to do not with the technical side of the sport, but the emotional side of it. Game 7, Guardians were down 6-1 at one point. Rajai Davis, a 7-pitch at bat against Aroldis Chapman, choke it up on the stick like Larry Boa used to do back in the day, hitting a slider off the Fox camera in left. And then outside of Progressive Field, there's standing room only where there's thousands of people just jumping up and down. I blacked out at the moment. Unfortunately, the Cubs came back and won this thing in extras. That was soul crushing, but it still is one of the greatest moments I've ever seen as a Cleveland sports fan. And the place, if there had been a roof on that thing, they would have had to repair it for the next inning because
the world stopped, bro. I talked to Roger about that at bat the fall when I played with him with the A's, excuse me. And he's like, I wish I remembered more of it. He goes, I blacked out too. Like around the bases, he doesn't remember rounding the bases.
No. Well, and he had been 3 for 20 in the World Series on top of that until that swing.
God, he's hilarious too.
Don't forget, he's hilarious. He is great. He is a great interview. He's very funny and a good guy. Don't forget to get your question, your MLB 9 innings question of the week in by Thursday night so we can pick one and use it on Friday's show. For our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke, and the always entertaining Trevor Plouffe, I am Chris Rose. We will see you Friday on Baseball Today. Don't forget to tune into the NFL Draft pregame show. I'll see you there.